And what's going on, traders? Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is May 20th, 2021. Please click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today, we're going to talk about the price action in the indices. We'll go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors. We'll talk about some of my trades for the day, including taking off a nice earnings trade for an over 100% winner. We'll jump into some options order flow, and last but not least, quick risk disclaimer before we go into that. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, let's jump in here. Okay. So this is, let's check out our ES. So today for our box scores, we had the S&P 500 close up 1.08%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finish up 1.93%. We had the IWM small caps close up 0.67%. And we had the Dow Jones close up 0.61%. So what we are seeing is that the NASDAQ QQQ is beginning to lead us higher. And we talked about this theme in yesterday's video. But yeah, it looks like investors are starting to look ahead to that next thing beyond the reopening. So as we take a look here, this is our S&P 500. What a sloppy, month and a half or so of price action it has been. We've been going up, down, and all around, but really not making all that much progress in the big picture. We did trade at one point below this monthly value area low. We flushed below it. I believe this was in pre-market though. When I woke up this morning, I checked the indices. S&P 500 was down like 0.4%, and we rallied in the pre-market. You can see we closed above this 5-day EMA, and we tagged this monthly point of control before coming off just a little bit. I like where we closed in terms of the closing range, but we could not close above that 20-day simple moving average. Overall, this is a nice constructive day of price action in my opinion. Let's go down to the hourly chart here, and you can see I called this out earlier, and it's not like, oh, I called this or anything, but it's usually once you break out. So like in this case, we broke above this weekly point of control. Typically the next area to target would be that weekly value area high. You can see that we tagged the weekly value area high and we bounced lower. Is that a problem? No, not really. I don't think so. We pulled back to this 5-day exponential moving average. I would imagine we will likely test that level again tomorrow. We'll have to see if we can actually test it and even close above it. That would definitely be pretty unexpected here. But you can see throughout the entire week pretty much, we've been dancing in and out of this weekly value area. It's been very, just choppy price action overall. Let's jump over to our NQ. NASDAQ breaking out above the weekly value area high. This is awesome. We have on our daily chart here, this is starting to look a lot more constructive. It's crazy what a few days of price action can do. We closed above the 50-day simple moving average, and we are closing in on that 20-day SMA as well. So far, so good. I'll take it. And then looking over here at a Russell closed up 0.49%. You'll see that we could not actually close inside of this monthly value area. So we'll have to see. The Russell, in my opinion, will likely be the weakest index moving forward. And I am actually hedged with the IWM. I have a put calendar spread on for IWM. Now let's jump over to the Dow Jones. Dow Jones closed just inside this monthly value area. The Dow Jones had some stellar price action over the past, maybe 6 months. Now we're starting to see, we had today closing right above. We traded above this monthly value area and closed within. Overall, it's not like this looks bearish or anything. Just wasn't as strong relatively as the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ QQQ. Let's jump in under the hood here. And what I see is the breadth was a lot better today. Over the past couple of trading sessions, it's been breadth of like, oh my gosh, we have 10% advancers on every index. And that's never good. You don't really want to see that. Of course, I don't. So today we got some nice follow through. We had 91% advancers in the NASDAQ, which is very constructive. But overall, all these indices held up pretty well. Now diving a little bit deeper into our FinViz heat map. You can see same exact thing visualized in the heat map. We had all the tech names really shining. So we had semis shining today, the mega cap tech names, even Tesla was up 4.14%. I actually have a call spread that expires tomorrow. At this point, it is a bit of a lotto. Let's take a look. I have call spreads in Google and in Tesla. And Google, my call spread I have on the 22.25 or 23.25 by 23.35, excuse me. So we're well above my upper strike for Google. For Tesla though, this one is up in the air. So for Tesla, I have on the 600 by 610 call spread. And, you can see that's a bit of a reach here. But this was the last options expiration for Tesla. So could this pull another, just musking everyone once again and just ripping into the close on OPEX? It could happen. I took a look and the maximum pain price for expiration would be $605. You can see right here, we're pushing up against this weekly value area or a weekly point of control. What if we just jumped right over it? What if we gapped over it tomorrow and then just ran up to this weekly value area high? That would be the happy path for me. So let's take a look. Beyond that, and then you can also see the financials. There was a little bit of selling, some selling in energy, some selling in industrials, and it just looks like under the surface a little bit of the unwind of that recovery trade. Looking at our sectors here, we have the solar energy stocks moving towards the top of our momentum list up 4.13%. That was our leader for the day. Then also very strong was the ARK Innovation ETF. I actually added a lotto play in this ARK Innovation Fund. We'll jump into that in just a moment. And then the weak areas, we had a retail week, transports week, and energy week, and the regional banks too. Yeah, so the recovery trade definitely taking a little bit of a back seat today. For our style factors, only style factor that closed negative was high beta. So that says a lot about what's going on in the market right now. And you can see this momentum style factor, big change over the last couple months, led us higher up 2.23%. Now let's jump into some of my trades for the day. And let's take a look here. So in terms of stock trading, I closed out my Roku common shares for 327.55. I had paid 326.27. I said would rather allocate to a name showing better relative strength. Roku ended up just ripping into the close, I believe. Yeah, so Roku ended up righting itself today. But I have exposure to the ARK Innovation ETF. Roku is one of the largest holdings in that ETF. So I was like, you know what, I can get rid of Roku. There were some other names that I really wanted to explore. But yeah, in hindsight, this one would have worked just as well. We had closed that one out for a small winner. Then I got long SI common stock. This is the name that they are going to be administering the stablecoin Diem. What I noticed yesterday, I analyzed the block ETF, and I noticed that SI yesterday, when the cryptos were still not really performing all that great, SI was the best performer in that blockchain ETF. So that is telling me there is someone in the shadows putting a position on in SI. So I'll have to see, could this become a systemically important financial institution because it's administering Diem? Absolutely. That's sort of my thesis and why I'm like, I got to take this seriously if this is showing some relative strength versus the other crypto names. So I added this one onto the books today. And then for some options trades, I got long the Airbnb October 15th 130 strike calls for 22.20. Excuse me. We do have a catalyst coming up for Airbnb. That takes place on May 24th. When is that? Oh my gosh, that's this Monday coming up. I didn't even realize that. Airbnb has really been beaten up. You can see now we are back to the IPO price. Airbnb, they have a fantastic business though. And I think in terms of these social trends and where the world is going, I think Airbnb is in a fantastic spot. Now they're not trading at a ridiculous price to sales ratio. And it looks from the price action that this one may have actually bottomed out. So looking forward to that catalyst on May 24th. Really what I'm playing for in this trade that expires in October is that over the course, so Airbnb is a very, very unique trade. And this is where style factors in the market come into play. What I mean, we go through the style factors every single day, is that a lot of these institutions, they trade based on the style factor. So they go, okay, we think that the economy is accelerating, so we want to be long GDP sensitive companies. So they'll trade style factor baskets. And it's like, okay, everything in the growth style factor basket, we are selling that. We're buying everything in the value style factor basket. So over the past couple of months, we've had recovery names really lifting higher, and we've had the growth names really coming lower. What's interesting about Airbnb is that Airbnb is a growth stock, but it's also a recovery stock. But Airbnb did not move higher with the other recovery stocks. So I think we're in a very unique situation here where Airbnb suffered the massive correction. We have 25% short interest on the float here. And this business is really going to do well from this COVID vaccine. Pretty much, everyone that I know is starting to take trips. I'm actually taking a trip this weekend, and I'm going to be using an Airbnb. That's anecdotal evidence, but I sort of think this is a little bit messed up, and I think there could be an acceleration in the coming months. That's why I went with the October calls for Airbnb. Now let's see here. And then Blade. So Blade, I had some August 21st 7.5 strike calls that I picked up when this thing was absolutely melting. I bought those for 69 cents. I closed out a third of them for $2. That was a nice 190% winner. I am very stoked about that. It's always nice to get one of those under your belt to just, get your momentum as a trader and just be like, you know what? I killed it on this trade. And, let's just keep it rolling. So I was very excited about that. So I closed out a third of that early on in the day. I ended up closing out the rest of it, or not the rest of it. I kept on a small portion. I kept on a runner size position. I closed the rest out at 303 for $1.75, and I had paid 69 cents. So overall, great trade. And Blade, let's take a look at that one. Yeah, so Blade, I exited when it was down, maybe originally when it was up. I think I exited around $9. Then later in the day, I was like, okay, this thing looks like it's probably going to put in a red candle. I had sort of been mulling over, what's the upside now in Blade? I've looked at all the numbers for Blade, and I think this stock could move higher over time for sure. I think it could be a pretty good company, actually. But in terms of just that options trade, I was like, I'm up over, well over 150%. I almost pulled 200% on the first lots I sold. So I was like, I'm not going to get greedy and just keep that on. So I do have a runner size position on. Yeah, really excited about that one. And I actually uploaded a video to the YouTube channel, and it is a video that I sent to Pristine Capital members about that trade specifically. It was maybe the day after I put it on. I post all my trades in our Discord here, but I also sent out a video, just an earnings preview to members, outlining the asymmetric opportunity that I saw in Blade and really just what I was expecting for the earnings report. So if you're interested in becoming a member of the Pristine Capital trading community, feel free to sign up at pristinecapital.net. Also, if you're hey, I would just like to give it a shot and sign up for a trial, feel free to just send me an email. You can find my email on the site, or feel free to just use the contact form on pristinecapital.net and, reach out. Because a lot of people that I notice, they don't even really know what it is to be in sort of like a trading community or an investing community. And so for a lot of people, just giving it a shot and seeing if you like it, I think you will. But yeah, feel free. And then let's take a look at these other trades. So then the other trade I put on, I got long the ARC May 28th, 108 strike calls for $2.10. That is really a play on me just thinking we could get a ripper into options expiration for ARC. This is another one where I check the maximum pain price for expiration. And the max pain level for expiration tomorrow is like 111 on ARC. Look at all these green candles that it's put in. This one also has a really elevated short interest. If I was short this thing at this point, I would be shaking. Look at this. It's above the weekly value area. And it closed above as well. And we have a VPOC up there at almost 112. So this, I think the shorts could get cooked in this thing. We'll have to see. I just put on a lotto trade for that. And what else did we have? I closed out some Facebook calls for $17.92. I had paid $16.26. I got long some Roblox calls for $8.35. Roblox is also my largest position via common equity. And Roblox, I really like the way that it closed. So we traded above this weekly value area. I've been watching this thing like a hawk. And it was like, oh my gosh, then we dipped back in. We retested it. We tried to get above it and we failed. But sure enough, we ended up closing above it. So yeah, over the next month or so, this is all the price action here since the Roblox earnings report. Everything prior to that is, when it just IPO'd. I try to look at the price action using those different time segments when new information became available. And you can see it's really just put in this nice flagging price action ever since the earnings report. So I personally think there's some institutions that are building positions in this. I don't know if it'll necessarily take off, tomorrow or the next day or whatever. I definitely have very high conviction in this stock over the long term. And I also like trading it actively. So I've been scalping call options on it. And that's the goal for this trade. So I did that, and then I also entered a lottery position for the financials group into the close. So XLF. Really what this is, I noticed the options market is essentially pricing in what I am thinking as well, where these financials, they're not going to be leading the market higher. But I noticed that the 37.5 strike calls were very cheap. They were only about 40 cents when I entered. And I do think that if we just get a nice rally into options expiration, it could actually lead all of these groups higher. So I entered into a lotto trade for that one as well. Let's take a quick look at our options order flow before we wrap here. You can see from the order flow, we actually started getting more bullish flow today. So SPY, we have a lot of activity coming in for June and July. You can see there's always SPY hedges that go up as well. Compared to the prior days, it's a lot more bullish activity. You can see a semis name in here, Qualcomm, more SPX options going up. We have some Tesla activity towards the end of the day. And then you can see more hedges came in after the bell. So there wasn't really all that much in the way of individual names, to be honest. Yeah, you can see a lot of index players coming in. Also, tomorrow is options expiration, so be prepared for that if you have any expiring positions. Options expiration, a lot of times it is a slog where it is just, a lot of back and forth price action, and then maybe a big move at the end of the day. So that being said, hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.